they do things differently, and we don't want to be associated with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's their fear. The fear, though, is a little different as well. There are many people who are integrating pretty well in their areas of work and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But they won't get involved in volunteer activities and things like that because they fear that their name may be put on some list somewhere.
Right.
And they may be watched, and,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't want that to happen.
Okay, you mentioned something earlier in your talk about integration as opposed to assimilation.
Mm-hmm.
Just explain that. a bit.
Well, my theory is, I definitely see a difference between the two. When I hear the word assimilation, for me that means dropping everything that you have, every value that you have, and just being like everyone else around you.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm talking of integration, what I mean to say is that along with my values, be able to live in the society that I happen to live in.
And how big a problem is assimilation?
It really depends on, it's a relative term.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on where you draw the line. I mean, as a Muslim American, it really depends on where I want to draw the line with what I'm doing and how far I want to go with it.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask about your activism in the community and this community's position in the community and how well you're supported.
So basically, this all started, with 9/11. Alhamdulillah, we have at our masjid been active with media and city politics for the last 20 years, ever since right around the time we got started.
Mm-hmm.
We've all, because of being in downtown, we've had permit issues and things like that. So we've always been in touch with the city hall. We've been in touch with our neighbors and things like that. But it was 9/11 that really brought a change to our attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And we became even more proactive with everything that we were
give us
doing.
a snapshot of what it was like here after 9/11.
The environment here was extremely peaceful even after 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
We, though, did take the sign outside down for a few weeks,
Mm-hmm.
but a senior community member called me and reminded me that, hey, look, we've been here for the last 20 years. People
Mm-hmm.
know where we are if they really want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
But I recall the day on 9/11 in the evening, I called the local police department and I said, I would like the PD to be making a few extra rounds during the course of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And I recall the lady telling me, look, sir, we can't do that. You can't make specific requests like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a time when I knew no one at the police department. And I remember telling her, well, ma'am, in that case, can you just give me your name? And God forbid if something were to happen to the mosque, at least I can say that I've called in and I'm pretty sure this conversation here is being recorded.
Mm-hmm.
To which she immediately replied and said, can you hold on a minute? And she made whatever arrangements she needed to and assured me that they would be making a few extra rounds.
Mm-hmm.
But we, by the grace of Allah, did not have any problems at all.
Mm-hmm.
We had our voicemail was set up. I was recording all the messages that came in,
Mm-hmm.
and interestingly enough, I think I received about 3 or 4 hate calls as compared to about 70 or 80 phone calls of support
Mm-hmm.
from members in the community. And we were checking those messages. And then, right after 9/11, there were services, events, programs in the upcoming week.
Mm-hmm.
And
And did you find that the volume and frequency of those programs increased at that time?
of course,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And these were citywide programs, so these were this was nothing that we were doing per se.
Mm-hmm.
These were citywide programs, and I like to tell people as an American that I had been an imam for about a year when this happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a minor leaguer thrown into the major leagues
Mhm.
overnight. And I was there batting, and I had no idea what I was doing.
Mhm.
And so I started attending a lot of these events and gatherings as sort of the token Muslim imam
Mm-hmm.
with a few other community leaders. And that's when I really got to know people,
Mhm.
people around the city, whether it be city government, whether it be religious leaders, all kinds of people. And, and then there was this dialogue that began within the communities. One of the greatest really things that changed was the local council person, a lady by the name of Cindy Chavez. She hosted a community leaders meeting right here in our library,
Mm-hmm.
at which point a young deputy chief from the police department walked in.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke for a little while. We might have given out a few books or whatever. And a few of these leaders spoke, and we became really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was, at that point, where on Eid Day, we decided that all these new friends that we have, let's invite them for Eid.
Mm-hmm.
We host Eid either at the fairgrounds or the convention center. It's a fairly large event, 5,000 to 7,000 people. And in the morning, when we have the program with the speaker speaks and so on and so forth, we made room for about 4 or 5 of these individuals to speak for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So it might have been the mayor or someone from the mayor's office, the local council person, and things like that. It's great PR for them.
Mm-hmm.
It works. You have 7,000-8,000 Muslims from the city gathered at one place. And so it became an event that happened every year at Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha. These individuals would come by invitation. We'd ask them to speak. And during the course of these years, and we wouldn't only do that. We'd have lunch with them. We would meet each other at different events. It was during the course of this, a very unique thing happened where this deputy chief of the police department became chief of the chief of the police department for the 10th largest city in the United States. But prior to that happening, one day at Eid, he promised that he would fast for the entire month of Ramadan the following year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he did.
Mm-hmm.
He fasted for the entire month of Ramadan. And we know each other very well. I frequently go on police ride-alongs. And
right.
So,
but let me ask you, after the police chief, he fasted in the month of Ramadan. What was the feedback from him about the experience of fasting?
so it's very interesting. He's a Mormon.
Okay.
So Mormons do fast once a week.
Mm-hmm.
And the money that they save for lunch on Sunday, they give that to charity. Mm-hmm. So he knew the concept of fasting.
Mm-hmm.
It was already a spiritual exercise for him.
Mm-hmm.
But this was something for him, experiencing this in a very unique and different way.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to do this not because he wanted to be close to the Muslim community. He didn't do this because he would get a lot of PR.
Mm-hmm.
He sincerely wanted to do this for his own self and see how it felt like, because he had the sense of religion in him. He knew what it meant to fast.
Mm-hmm.
And so for him, he comes back and almost every day in Ramadan he was having iftar and dinner at some Muslim family's home.
Mm-hmm.
He said a lot of different things when he was done with Ramadan. One of them being that spiritually it was very great for him. Another thing he mentioned that I came to realize that the Muslim American challenges are like the challenges of any other American family. Sending kids to school, putting food on the table, having a roof over the head, simple basic things. And he made a statement to me and said, at the age of 40, when I got to know Muslims and Islam, they were a strange people to me. I didn't know who they were. But he says, my 6-year-old daughter knows more about Islam and Muslims than I did at the age of 40. So continue doing what you're doing, because people will eventually know who you are and what you stand for.
Right. And tell us about your extent of involvement in outreach in the community, and some of the advisory boards or something you may be part of here in San Jose.
So, another thing another element to this, in addition to my serving of the imam as the masjid, doing the classes here, leading the salah, teaching at Sunday school, was outreach in the greater community.
Mm-hmm.
And this took me in many different directions. One of the ways, I started attending a lot of interfaith dialogues,
mm-hmm.
Really to get to know people and really understand what faith meant to them,
mm-hmm.
rather than preaching about myself. It was just to get to know people on a more personal level. 6 years ago, there was an opening in the Human Rights Commission for the city. Mm-hmm. And I applied for it, and I remember interviewing for it, and they asked me why I wanted to be on it. Mm-hmm. And I don't recall exactly what I said, but 2 of the many reasons I gave to them was, 1, because you probably don't have someone as young as I do on mm-hmm. that commission, and you probably don't have a Muslim on that commission. Mm-hmm. And Muslims do make up a great, number of people that live in the city.